Good morning and welcome to the Broadroom Talks. And today we have the outstanding Pat Slattery and myself, Mighty Pete. And it's a privilege to have Pat on. So we've just got a very small subject to cover this morning. So good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Pete.
So as the title suggests, as some of you may have seen there, it's really where we I posed a question to Pat and said, knowing, what really is knowing? So knowing and feeling that you're capable of more, but don't know where to start. So Pat, without further ado, tell us, what do you know?
What do I know? I know everything, Pete. Did you not know that? But of course you did. But the funny thing is when you ask me this question, and it's very thought provoking actually. And I guess I'll go back a little bit in terms of we talk about having the gift of knowing and how you actually know. And I'm going to show you there are quite a few people who are going to watch this. So this is certainly going to resonate with. They'll recognize certain things I'm going to share today, I'm sure. Because I didn't, know I had a gift of knowing, if you like. But I can go back, God, so far back really, without over-analyzing, that I always had that sense. And every people talk about, you have that sixth sense that you tend to know certain things, or, your gut lets you know things, or you should go, follow your gut. But I can go back to, my goodness, 20-something years ago. And when I first was told, I guess, that I have a gift of knowing, without me recognizing what it was. And again, I don't want this to sound a little bit up in the air, a little bit, I suppose, sci-fi, right? But I want to people give an understanding of actually what it means and how you can recognize it in yourself. And maybe it'll give people a prompt to trust themselves a little bit more as well. But when you asked me the question, it got me thinking, because I know it came from a conversation we were having recently with a group. And the gift of knowing, when somebody shared this with me, it comes from a very, I suppose, a higher place, Pete. Okay. And it's not something you can be given, I don't believe. But I do believe that everybody has it in some way, shape, or form. And I decided to do a little bit of work on myself many years ago. 20-something years ago, I reckon, at this stage. And I was involved with a peer group. And my peer group back then, we had an agreement that if any one of us suggested something for everybody to do, the answer was automatically going to be yes. That we knew it would always be for the greater good of the group, for everybody. And one of the guys had arranged a weekend retreat. And I got a call 2 weeks beforehand. And I said, Pat, we have a retreat coming up Friday week, you're on it. I said, okay, because that was the deal, right? And so I said, where's it on? And we had to go and organize hotels, etc. And then he said, oh yeah, and by the way, it's going to cost you 500 quid. So I said, that's okay, that's the deal, right? So we arrived to the hotel the evening before and really had no idea what was going on. And the following morning, we went into the meeting room. And that was my first introduction for what we want to call a spiritualist, or, and into the world of spiritualism. And I was very uncomfortable, Pete. Okay, I was very uncomfortable, and because I know people get very uncomfortable sometimes with certain things, and some people are more comfortable. But I was uncomfortable because I was confusing it with religion, and my experience, by the way, with religion or religious people up to that point wasn't very, I suppose, wasn't something I want to carry with me as great memories of my life, So anyway, we spent this whole weekend going through understanding life, understanding our meaning of life, and understanding ourselves, and being able to tap into our higher selves, into our higher being, and at the end of the weekend, the person who was facilitating it said to me, I got to tell you, you have an incredible gift. You have a gift of knowing. And I said, okay, I'll take that on board. But it kind of intrigued me a little bit, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And a couple of years later, it was said to me again by one of my mentors. He said, Pat, he said, you have a gift. You just know things. And I said, that's interesting. That has been said to me before. And I just really, I shrugged it off, I guess, in a way. And then the last person said it to me, and is a guy that you were familiar with, that you had the pleasure of having on your podcast, was Mark Victor Hansen, one of the authors of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And myself and Mark spent hours together, hours. Well, maybe spent days together first, but we had about 5 hours of one-to-one, where we shared a hell of a lot, personal and everything else, right? And he just said to me, Pat, he said, I got to tell you something. He said, you got to do something with the gift that you have. He said, you have a gift of knowing. He said, automatically you know things that takes us 20 years to learn from a book. So I started paying a bit of attention to it, and I started accepting it. Now, the other thing I feel about knowing and having that gift of knowing, and I'll share with people shortly, because when I researched this, I can share with you 16 signs that actually you can identify whether you have that gift, and which I do believe everybody has it to some point, okay? But a lot of people fight it. And when Mark said this to me, and it's how he said it to me, and the explanation and the description and the discovery I got, I suppose, really that day, I allowed it, I accept it, and I accept that I have a gift of knowing without, I often say it in a fun term, with people, but the reality is I certainly know certain things. I'm not claiming to be clairvoyant, that I can tell the future, etc. But there are certain things that I may have predicted could potentially happen and possibly happen, and they have happened. Right now, we can also talk about the law of attraction when it comes to that, what you put out there, what comes back, etc. But for me, understanding the gift of knowing, I had to accept it without overanalyzing it. Okay, and because I was always very analytical, it had to make sense. And I think sometimes most people, when they feel something extraordinary or feel something different, that they may overanalyze sometimes and almost talk themselves out of it. So for me, I had to stop being over-analytical and just accept that, yeah, I certainly know certain things. And sometimes it's not easy to explain, Pete. Okay? It's not easy to explain. And there are people here who will say, I kind of know, and I knew the answer, but I didn't know where it came from. Now, I often talk about certain things too, and I say, well, maybe I was here before. We say about, well, that young fella has an old man's head in his shoulders, right? He's been here before. Because I just knew the answer to certain things. I knew my way around places that I had never been. And, I've been to many places and traveled to many places, and I just seem to know what's around the corner, even though it's my first time there. Like Donna does be amazed because I don't use a map. I really do. Now, of course, I started using the sat nav if I'm walking around places. I'm kind of cheating, right? But I don't need it. I don't need it to find my way home. I don't need it. And that's something I can't really explain. But the other side of it is when you have this gift of knowing, and I truly believe that everybody has it. And this is why, just before we come on here, I know that part of why it's amazing. I wrote a note down here, and I was thinking about the conversation what we're going to have, right? And we haven't talked about this actually before, and other than we decided to do it, right? And when I was making notes, I made some notes, and I was thinking about what we're going to discuss here today, and I'm trusting that I'm going to explain it in the best way I can possibly explain it, right? And something I wrote a note, I said, Pete, this is one of those podcasts that you're going to have to put out there ASAP. This is not something that's going to have to sit there. And then when we come on, you said, Pat, what do you think about putting this out live? We do this live. And I said, absolutely, because that's the message I got. This needs to go out there ASAP. And like when you know things are going to work out, you just know they're going to work out. And you know this, Peter, I've done a lot of interviews with you, actually, in particular. And I've done a lot of radio interviews. I've done a few TV interviews. And when people come to me and they go, oh, well, what questions? You would like a list of questions? I said, no, ask me anything. And some people go, oh, really? And I say, ask me anything. We done a call last week, yourself and Karen, and said, right. I said, ask me anything. I've got nothing to hide, and I just know it will always work out. The right thing will be said at the right time, when whatever is needed to be said. And the message, whoever takes a message away from here today will take away the right message at the right time. I just know that. I also know it's not for everybody, and that's okay too. But when they're ready, and when they're ready to accept information and knowledge and get involved in it, then they will. So if I was to simply explain what is knowing, to me, it's about, there's a level of trust, having that trust in yourself, you know, having faith in your capabilities and your abilities, and becoming a critical thinker. And those are kind of the three simple things I would talk about when it comes to knowing. You know, you've got to have trust in yourself. And when you have trust in yourself, things seem to work out in your favor. Now, the other side of that is people go, well, sometimes I trusted my gut and I went with something and I was let down, or, you know, somebody pulled the wool over my eyes. That has happened to me too, and happened to me many, many times. But I can tell you honestly, if I answer it honestly, I didn't go with my gut because my gut sent off a little warning. And I didn't pay attention to that warning. Because maybe it was because I was being greedy. Maybe it's because I wanted more certain things. I wanted to happen faster, and I thought it was a quick fix to something. I don't know, maybe. But the reality is, I know when I didn't go with my gut, anytime I never went with my gut, it usually didn't work out in my favor. And there are certain times too where, even though I knew what I needed to do, but I may have chosen to do the opposite. So, you know, we can go around and I can blame the world, or blame people or things for anything that went wrong in my life. But the reality is, I know I could have changed it. I know I could have done more. I know I could have contributed to life in a different way. That's why now, if something doesn't suit me, I just walk away. I don't give it energy. I don't give it time, because I know better, right? And sometimes you get the gift of knowing from experience, but everybody has it. And when people can tap into their higher self and get that understanding, and allow themselves to understand what knowing means to them, and the power that they have and the capabilities they have, then I can guarantee you things will work out better for you. Things generally go in your favor. You know, so, you know, I suppose it's like downloading information, right? We were talking about this with somebody about what you're downloading, and the information you're reading, what you're taking in, and so forth. But this is like downloading information from yourself. And but here's what happens: somebody gets an idea, and I start overanalyzing it. They start talking themselves out of it again, because usually that comes from a past experience, or something that they've been educated to believe to be the truth, instead of trusting their own self, their own gut, their own knowing, and their own feelings. And unfortunately, when you're surrounded with an environment that tells you something consistently to be the way that they want you to believe it to be, most people take it on, even though they don't feel right, even though they don't think it's right. But they still take it on board because it's a lot of noise, and it's difficult to challenge it, or it's difficult to step up against it, or it's difficult to speak up and say, I am, I am who I am, or I believe something different than everybody else. And even it was amazing. You were on the call the other night, Pete, right? And I got to hit my hat off to you, because you were the one that answered immediately. But I've asked this a couple of times, and I just saw somebody put it up on a Facebook thing one day, and I thought, that's a very interesting question. And the answer was even more interesting when I asked, and I said to people, what do you love? What do you love? And people started giving lists of chocolate, self-development, fun, happiness, all these different things. But you immediately said me. And the question really for me was to ask that question to see how many things the people would say or write down before they got to me. And it's not that they don't, but the reality is, I believe people have been programmed to think differently. And it's an embarrassing thing to say. So when you talk about the gift of knowing, and going with your gut and going with your feeling, it can be embarrassing for people. But people need to be strong enough to overcome that, and not overanalyze it, and stop talking yourself out of it. Stop telling yourself it's nonsense when you know the truth. And you know the truth, by the way. You know the truth. You know you're capable of being anything you want to have anything you want, or to be anything you want to be, or do anything you want to do. You know you can do this. Now, unfortunately, because society or preconditioning, whatever it is, tells you different, because you might think, well, I have dyslexia, I can't spell right. So maybe you can't read or write at all. So, right? Doesn't matter. You can be, do, have anything you want to be, do, and have. Because once you know, and this is something else when we understand the gift of knowing, you know there's going to be a way you can do it regardless of what you have to overcome, regardless of the obstacles. You can still do it. You know that. But if you buy into other people's beliefs and nonsense, because I believe it's nonsense, but I'm open to stand corrected on that, maybe, right? But it doesn't matter. You know you can do, have whatever it is you want to do. And if you go with that and you download that information from your higher being, from who you are, from your true self, and you believe in it and you have that faith and you trust yourself, then allow that thinking, allow that dream to become a reality. Because also when you're beginning to dream, most people dream about something. They have something that they want to be, something they want to do, somewhere they want to be even. And they keep getting in the way of it because of the preconditioning, instead of saying, trust yourself, go with it and do it. So for me, I mean, I'm going off on a ramble here and I have some notes, right? But I think that's what I do at this stage. But like, the other thing, and I think you'll recognize it, most people, and I'm probably even touching on some of the points already that I've written down, but I kind of know when somebody's being truthful. I don't have to, people used to say to me, Pat, you're like a human lie detector. But you just know. I choose whether to accept. I don't choose to disagree or argue with people on certain things anymore. But I just know. And I know how people behave around people. How do I know it? I can't answer that for you, other than accepting that I know. And for other people who are on here, you also have that gift of knowing. Now, the other thing I would hope that people don't overanalyze what I'm saying here, because that's where I see the danger getting in, that some people, you can overanalyze and go completely one way. So it's a topic, as I said to you just before we come on, you're really opening a can of worms here for me when you ask me that question. Okay. And I've done a little research on it, and in the spiritual world, they have a name for it, which is, I had to break it down so I could pronounce it right. It's claircognizant is the term that they use for people who have the gift of knowing. And when you have a gift of knowing, you kind of know things. You know the answer to things that you're not even versed in. You haven't been versed in before. I've been, even in recent weeks, I've been on different sites with people, looking at different projects, industries I know nothing about. Yet in the middle of the conversation, I started coming up with solutions, and the guys are looking at me like I'm a genius. And they're saying, but that's what we've been looking for. And I'm going, really? Then that's what you need to do. That's what I feel you need to do. And I can tell you, and not even out of that, I've had 2 very large business opportunities for me to get involved in. And possibly something I will be getting involved in, because it's good. The rewards are going to be huge, but require very little of my time. And that's from simply going with accepting and trusting that I know things. And I can walk in anywhere, to any industry, to any group of people, in anywhere in the world, and have a conversation. And I trust myself. People say, even when I go on stage, if I'm going speaking at seminars, it doesn't matter. Quite often I have zero script. And even if I do have a script, chances are I'll go off the script, right? Because I get a sense that I know what the audience need on the day, and I do my best to deliver what it is I believe that they want for the majority of the audience. But I also believe and I trust that I'm going to share something that will resonate with everybody. It may not be the same thing that resonates with everybody, but I'm going to share something that will resonate with everybody, and I trust that. So I have no fear. And it's, I think you asked a question recently on that. I said, what's your fear? Yeah, I have no fear. I really believe that. I have no, I mean, that doesn't mean I wouldn't be fearful at times. It doesn't mean that if I was put in a situation which was uncomfortable or difficult, and it certainly, wouldn't mean that if I was out in the field and there was 200 guys running at me shooting guns, I'd probably be, fear is good in that sense, right? But when it comes to me and to life and my future and what I'm going to do and what I'm going to have and, you know, the difference I'm going to make, I have no fear. I have no fear whatsoever. I have no fear of what people think about me either. You know, as I said, this is not, maybe what I'm talking about is not for everybody, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But I know for sure I'm on the right path. I know for sure I'm on the right path, and I know that I'm going to continue to make a difference for people in this world for all of my life, for however long that will be. I kind of believe I'm going to live till I'm 112. Right? I don't know that for sure, but I kind of feel like it, so I'm going to trust it. I'm not going to challenge it or question it. Now, the other side of that is when you know something, and you think it's really important to get involved. And this, I think, is what really stands out for me. I think this is what makes me a little bit different. And I mean this respectfully to everybody. There are a lot of people out there who know, but they do nothing about it. And that's what I feel makes me that little bit different. That when I know something, when I know it, I just get and do it. People say to me, you might start something, Pat, you don't even know how it's going to work out. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I know it's going to work out. And that's all I need to know. I just need to know I'm doing the right thing. And the same for everybody on here. Whatever it is you want to do, you just need to know. If you know you're doing the right thing, you keep doing it. And if you don't know what you're doing is working or if it's not working, keep doing it. So, you know, when it comes to knowing and having that, you know, intuition, maybe you might call it intuition, whatever you want to call it, just accept it sometimes. But accepting it is not just about imagining it and accepting that you know things. You've got to do something with it. You have the power to do something with it once you understand it. And when you understand it, you got to put it into practice. And the funny thing is, you will get it right almost all of the time. You know, I often joke and I say, you know, but I'm always right. Right? But, you know, the reality is when you know, you generally get it right almost all of the time. You know, and the only time that you don't get it right is when you only half commit. And when people half commit to something that they know, they tend to go back to, well, that was a mistake. But was it really, or did you really commit to what you know? Or were you worried about what other people would think about you or what other people would think about what you're thinking about? So you only half commit. And if, you know, the people who are watching this, if you look back in your life, you know, they say hindsight, right? Everybody has hindsight. I don't think I've met any single person who says, well, when I look back, I probably could have done things differently. Oh, so you know that. But you knew that when you started. Don't let circumstances and don't let people, don't let anything get in the way of what you actually know. So if you have a dream, if you have a goal, if you have something that you want to achieve, if you want to make a difference in this world, and you know in your heart of hearts, and you know in your gut and you feel it, that that's what you really want to do, and you know this, don't be beating yourself up because you don't know how just yet. Because I guarantee you, once you know this, you'll find a way, you'll make it work, and it will work. It always works once you commit to it, and you give yourself wholeheartedly to it, and trust yourself. And I've had this challenge quite a few times in my life. I can look back early on in my life and realize when I really didn't trust myself, I didn't get the results. But I know when I trusted myself and I went wholeheartedly and I went right out there and said, that's it, I'm putting everything on the table. I'm doing it. I just trust. I know it's going to work. And trust me when I tell you, I was challenged. A lot of people challenged me. A lot of people didn't believe. A lot of people didn't believe. But those that knew did. Those that knew did. And think about this. For anybody who's watching here, when somebody else come to you with their dreams or their goals or their vision and whatever they want to make happen, and if you believe in them, then you know something. You just got to create the same belief in you too. Allow yourself to be it. Because I've seen people, I've met thousands and tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, I guess, at this stage within the industry I'm in and what I do. And I met so many people who know they have an idea and they know it, but all of a sudden they start talking themselves out of it almost immediately. The brain is sabotaging them, right? Yet I've seen them get behind other people and give complete trust to other people and believe in other people. Yet something is breaking I suppose, their belief in themselves, whatever it is, whether it's a precondition, whether it's something they were told, it's an experience in the past. So they're actually getting in the way of knowing. I hope I'm explaining this the best way, because this is really off the cuff in terms of me trying to explain my understanding. And I'm sure there are plenty of scientific studies and that will come in and give you a scientific view in this. But I'm just going to give it to you from what I believe and my experience has taught me to date. And I trust and I know, Pete, what's coming in the future. I know what's going to happen. I know what I'm going to achieve. I know what other people are going to achieve. I know the people who are going to be in my life for a long time. I know when I meet somebody almost instantaneously. I also know the ones that I don't want to spend any time around. Right? And I know I get that feeling almost instantaneously. And I love people. I love being around people, but the right people. And you know what? Those who I've given complete trust to have never let me down. Those are why I know I can trust. They've never let me down. But anytime I went against that, we could say I was surprised. But the reality is you weren't, you know. Any other questions, Pete? Or I just keep going?
I have about 100 questions. You know me.
Yeah. I can just have a sip of my coffee now.
Would you describe knowing as a sense then?
Yeah, I guess it is, you know. And again, as I said to you, I find myself now kind of analyzing it a little bit, right? Which I've never done before. It's, you know, well, trust is a sense, right? It's certainly a sense. I believe that should actually is probably your strongest sense. But because we haven't been taught about it, maybe enough people don't know about it, or maybe people have their own way of describing. Maybe people talk about it in religion and use it for that purpose. I don't know. I'm not suggesting that's the case, but I truly believe that yes, it is a sense, and I believe everybody has it. Isn't it amazing? Even as children, even as kids, as babies, know. You know, you ever tried to feed a baby something that they don't like? They know they don't like it, right? And they know exactly what they need to do to get out of it. And you know, very early on in life, even as a baby, when you haven't even educated them yet as to what's right and what's wrong, they kind of know. You know, even the babies have that little guilty look every now and again when they know they've done something wrong. You know, but also they know when there's happiness in the air. You can sense it. You know, you have young babies, right? You know when they're happy babies, they have a sense. Maybe they dream, maybe it's dreaming, whatever. You know, I haven't dived that deep into it, but I'm sure there are a lot of mediums and people, you know, who really understand this. And you know, people are very skeptical of mediums and very skeptical. Yeah, we're skeptical of some of them because not all of them actually know what they think they know, but there are quite a few of them that do. And you know, maybe they could give a better scientific explanation. But for me, I'm just going to talk from the heart and from the gut here in terms of what I believe in terms of the energy that I feel. And I feel energy. I feel people too. I feel, you know, what's going to happen. I can feel it. You know, if I'm in an uncomfortable place, I can feel it, and I believe most people can when they're around somebody that is not good for them or in a place where they shouldn't be. But I also feel it too when I'm in the right place, and I just know I'm in the right place. And you know, when I look at my life and I think about it and I think about where I'm at, and now I practice knowing actually, and I think it's something when I talk about practice knowing is people say to me, how do you practice this? Well, simply, you know, we talk about meditation and we talk about visualization, and you know, when you're practicing and taking time out to practice, for me, I first thing I do is I relax, take time out to relax. And if I take time out to relax, I feel that I'm raising my vibration. When I relax, I kind of become really aware of what's around me, become really aware of everything. And in that time, I guess that is meditation. So I'm meditating and I'm becoming aware. I'm paying attention a lot more to sounds, to noise, to peace, maybe to how I feel. And I feel very grounded, actually, by the way. And I believe I'm very grounded. I have a very practical approach to life too, and a very logical approach to life as well. But I feel, that you got to raise your vibration, and when you understand what you know, and I think you often heard the old term, you don't know what you don't know, right? But when you know, you spend time exercising, knowing, you're raising your vibration. And I feel, to me, I tend to attract the right people. I believe I'm surrounded with some of the best people in the world, Pete, and that includes you. I really do. I really feel that, and I know I am. I absolutely know I am. I also know if I go into a situation where it's not right, then I make a decision quite quickly, and I don't go there. But for me, my focus on life now is being the best I can be and encouraging others to be the best they can be and continue doing what I do for all of my life. And I know that is the right thing to do. And when I take that time to, I suppose, to raise my vibration, when I talk about relaxing, people say, well, where do you go to relax? My favorite place is a beach. I don't care what beach it is. I don't care where it is. So I sit there and, and it's like, it just encompasses your whole being. It's just so, to me, it's incredible. The sounds. And I could be on the beach with 1 million people and I won't hear a single person. I won't hear a single person. I hear the sounds of the ocean, the sounds of the wind, the gravel as it's been pulled back into the sea, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm present when I'm there. Or recently, I went to spend a bit of time with my kids and we were down on a lake. In the morning time, I'd make myself a cup of coffee and I'd go out into the gardens. And the boys, of course, teenagers, right? And maybe a bit older than teenagers, trying to get them out of bed. And I just leave them sleep. I said, sleep, let sleep wherever they want. I just go out there and sit down with a cup of coffee and I have a song chorus, right? A bird chorus, should I say. I have my own concert, right? And I'm listening to the sound of the trees and I just be, that's it. I just be. And in those moments, there's so much clarity, so much comes to me and I know I'm in the right place again. And, so I'm going to say to people, practice knowing. Allow yourself. Don't search for it, by the way. I can't search for it. It's not like that. It comes to you. And when it comes to you, just let it flow. Don't question it. Now, there's going to be a kind of bit of a contradiction here in ways too, right? Because I talk about being a critical thinker. But when don't try, to me, this is just my opinion, by the way, and not necessarily advice, but it's my opinion. Don't try and make it sound smart, or don't try and make it be clever. Don't try to put it all together so it looks wonderful and everything else. Just speak with your truth. Speak from where you are, where you're at. Speak what you know. And if some people don't get it, that's okay. Don't worry about it, because not everybody knows, right? And if you have an idea and you have something, if you have something that you feel in your whole being is the right place to be, the right thing to do, just do it. Go for it. You be true to yourself. And when you be true to yourself, you raise your vibration and you process things differently then. Now the other side of it is, how do you know that you have the gift of knowing? Is you will process through problems and always find a solution. And that's who I am. And I know we've had this conversation dozens of times with people, and I can't. The problem, I don't see a problem. The minute somebody comes to me with a problem, and then almost in an instant, I'm processing through it to create a solution, and I usually do. And I believe that's something that I do incredibly well, is I'm a solution provider. I just consistently find solutions, and I know and trust that usually they're the right solutions, and we can tweak and change them slightly to improve them. But at least we know we're on the right track. And if you're a person who does that, you have the gift of knowing. And there's a pile of different things here. I'm going to actually, when I share with you the 16 signs.
Please do.
So, so if people are here watching this, somebody's will resonate with you, maybe all of them. I can actually say that almost all of these resonate with me. When I was going through and I researched this and I come up, this is, by the way, not my ideas. These are ideas. These are explanations that have come from multiple different mediums, people who understand the world of spirituality and understand what knowing is. And it's just because Pete asked me to talk about knowing, I thought maybe I will research a little bit. And I actually is something I'm going to do. Something is prompted so much, Pete, actually, to be here today. And I certainly know I'm on the right track. So the 16 signs that you're
just before you go into that, Pat, if I can ask a question which may sort of help or explain, why are people afraid or embarrassed of knowing?
Oh, that's a great question. What I believe, again, I believe it's down to society, it's down to environment, it's down to what we're taught to believe to be the truth. And we can get into this, Pete, in really in depth here, right? And it could come across like a conspiracy theory, etc. But I don't believe it is. But what I truly believe is, I believe that people have been, conditioned to conform. And again, I know I've spoken about this in the past, and I go back and I believe it was Earl Nightingale when I heard this. Discovering this or discussing this, that the greatest enemy of mankind is conformity, and we're taught to conform, and you know what, most people are conforming, they don't know what they're conforming for or what they're conforming to. And I often, even recently, I was thinking about it. I was listening to the song, right? I love music, I love listening to songs, I love singing, right? But the song Waltzing Matilda, and in the song he was singing, he's talking about, and every year these guys are marching, and as the years go by, the young people are asking, what have these been marching for? And sometimes I ask myself the same question, because most people are marching, they don't know what they're marching for. Most people go to war and they don't know what they're going to war for, right? Most people go to work and they believe they're going to create an income, right? And I don't want to dismiss anybody that goes to work, right? Because I admire people who get up and go to work and do what they got to do. But conformity is, to me, the killer of all men and people. And when we look back and we think about, why do people question it? Why don't they believe in it? Because they've been taught not to. They've been taught, listen, what you got to do is you got to get up in the morning. You got to get up. You got to go get in the shower. You got to brush your teeth. You got to shave. You got to comb your hair the same way you did yesterday, right? You got to put on your shoes. You tie your shoelaces exactly like you did yesterday. You get in the car. You go on the same trip, right? You go on the same trip, the same route. You turn up at the same time. You clock out for your coffee at the same time every day, right? You clock back in after you had your coffee break. You clock out at lunch. You clock back in. You clock out at the end of the day. You get back in your car. You take the same trip home, right? And it's conformity. And I understand people need normality too, so I don't want to confuse the two, okay? But during that day, there's going to be lots of conversations, and people are going to meet a lot of people. And the conversations are going to more or less be about conformity, whether you realize it or not. People talk about the same things. You'll have multiple conversations about the same topic, right? And that topic is usually what's in the news, right? Or it's usually something that's going on in the town that nobody agrees with, because there's a fellow up the road there and he's opening up a place and they're all talking positive talk. He must be nuts. Oh yeah, one of those ones. Jeez, the world is getting full of those people. There's an awful lot more of them around, right? And I don't make fun of it, but the reality is that is the truth. And some people are blessed. Some people are blessed to have the right people, the people who think differently. Some people are blessed that you've had people in your life who have the gift of knowing, whether they realize it or not, and they know better and they share a different perspective with you. And they give you opportunities and allow you to understand who you are and what your reality actually is and can be. And you're blessed to have those people. And maybe you're one of those people. Maybe somebody watching here, you're one of those people. And if you are, I think it's important for you to realize and accept that you do know, that you do know things, and you can shape the world to be a better place by sharing what you know and being brave and having that trust, and also by getting out there and being a role model and allowing yourself to do it. Because I've met thousands of people who've never followed their dream. And again, it's almost always back to because they worry about what other people would think. And to me, that's probably one of the greatest crimes against mankind, is stopping somebody from following their dream. And it's their dream. If they don't make it, it's okay. They'll manage. But the main reason I find that most people don't make it is the obstacles that are put in the way by other people. And if those obstacles are put in the way by other people, unfortunately, what happens to most people is they create those blocks themselves. They put those obstacles there too. Maybe somebody else has laid the foundation and you build it higher yourself because you're fearful or concerned. And maybe because you say, I share my dream, this is what I'm going to do. And somebody goes, oh yeah, that's a clever idea, but how are you going to do it? And maybe you don't have the answer right now. And you go, oh, that was a silly thing to say. But maybe it's not. Maybe if you keep trusting and put it out there. Ironically, we have, again, we're talking about putting it out there. I have no idea who's watching, but I hope they're watching here because there's a few people on the Outstanding Network watching this. But one member of one of the masterminds recently have been going crazy over Fiverr. Right now that I've mentioned it, you probably see a lot of comments that come up about Fiverr, right? And people going crazy and driving them mad trying to find the right person. And so much so that the person has a childminder that comes into the home, and she came down and said, I'm going crazy with Fiverr. I'm trying to organize and get this thing designed. And the person says, oh, by the way, I'm a graphic designer. Sitting right under their nose, right? But imagine you don't say that. Imagine you don't share it. And the answer is always there in front of you, by the way. There's somebody who has the answer. There's always somebody who has the answer. If you trust yourself, there's somebody who knows what you need to know. Somebody always has the answer. But if you don't share it, or you think it'll be a silly idea, and you keep it to yourself, then you're kind of getting in the way of that gift of knowing and maybe of doing. So don't put any obstacles up there. Just put it out there. And if the opportunity presents itself, then be prepared to take it. If you know it's the right thing for you. Now, I can't tell you what is right for you, by the way. I can suggest certain things for people when I meet people, when I get to know them. And sometimes it has really worked really well, but other times I try to encourage other people to talk to me about what it is they know. And what it is they know is what they dream about, what they're passionate about, what they want to have, what they want to do, what difference they want to make. And when people start talking about that, when you see the passion, you see them coming to life. You can see them literally raising their vibration when they're in that space. And I feel I'm going to encourage you to do it, to be that as much as I possibly can. But I've also noticed that when people do that, almost after they finish the sentence and that smile is, the life is in them, you gradually see them kind of sitting back again and the smile is going away because all of a sudden the old program is coming back in. They start talking themselves out of it. And again, that's my opinion, is back to conformity. And it's not that anyone's doing this purposely to you, by the way. But people are going to share what they think they know, and what they think they know is what they've been taught. And I want you to understand, in my opinion, there's a big difference to what you're taught, what you understand, and the knowledge you have compared to what you actually know. And I believe knowing is very different. And for me, when it's worked for me, it may not work for everybody, but you've got to allow yourself the opportunity at least. It works for me, and I'm going to continue for the rest of my life using that gift of knowing. For me first, and then everybody who I come in contact with. But I'm not going to go, hang on a minute, I'm not going to come up to you and put my hand in your head and go, oh, I know. That's not what it's like. It doesn't scream. It's not that obvious. It's not that obvious all of the time. But you got to trust yourself. You got to trust yourself that you know enough. Got to trust yourself that you know what you want. Because there's so many people say to me, how do you know what you want? how do you know what you want? Or I don't know what I want to do. Well, maybe it's not that you don't know. Maybe it's that you've been presented with so many things that people think you should do that it's just caused confusion. So sometimes just take that time out to practice knowing. For me, as I said, to practice knowing means being aware, taking the time out, meditating, visualizing, sometimes just sitting there being, listening. That's how I practice it. And I tap into my higher being, my higher self. And I trust it. Yeah, and I trust it. And I don't do things willy-nilly. When I do that, then I will analyze it a bit more, and I'll create a little bit of logic around what that means and how it can work. And then I said about making a plan to make it work. And if I know and I trust I can do it, then I will do it. I will find a plan. I will create that plan and make it work. I'm going to get involved in that process, and I trust. I trust everything I do. I've started so many things, even in recent days. I've started things not with any real expectation, other than I know it's the right thing to do right now. And I'm sure that's going to happen many more times. I'm going to do more things that I know is the right thing to do right now. Who is it going to impact? How is it going to impact them? That's not even important to me. I just know I'm doing the right thing right now. And I know it's going to lead to something new and something more, something bigger, something better. Hope that answered the question, Pete.
It did, and I was taken by the unintended crossover between conformity and how society needs conformity. And I say need as in because marketers need us to play to our senses. They need us to do what we do. Governments need us to do what we do. And this is not getting into conspiracy theory, but then how that actually leads to fear, embarrassment, everything else. So the two feed together. So you choose to step out of that, and you're going against the stream. But
I mean, maybe I am, and maybe I'm not, Pete. Right? Maybe I'm using the same tools, but I use them for a different purpose. Maybe I use it for a different purpose because let's be honest about it. To be at that level of government, or as you say, as marketers, to create a response like that, there's a level of genius behind it, right? There's a level of planning, there's a level of thinking, and they have to know it's going to work, right? For me, it's the same thing. I have to know it's going to work, but I'm not going to conform. I'm not going to do it, for the same reasons that they do it, right? And sometimes a little bit of conformity is good because it gets you into a little bit of it helps you get your plan together, if you like. But at least plan for what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you're going to have to do something consistently, by the way, even when you know what you want to do. So there's a level of it that's acceptable, as long as you're conforming to your dreams and your goals and doing what you want to do. But for me, look, I have an awful lot of opinions, Pete, and sometimes if I share those opinions, we could cause a lot of havoc in the world, right? But I see what's going on. I see what's going on right now. I know that there's a lot of fear in the world, but I also know that we're going to be a hell of a lot better for it. Not because of the behaviors, because it is creating an incredible awakening in the world right now. The world is waking up. And I believe, and I know, in my opinion, that people will take control of their own lives. They'll take control of their own destiny, of their own future. And I know that they will do what they need to do. Simply because necessity is going to create that too. Things are happening that people are uncomfortable with and are tired of and fed up of, and and find it difficult to deal with. And we know, I mean, Donna actually mentioned something yesterday, and she'd done a quick live on it. Now we know right now that the world is craving human connection. Craving human connection. And actually, in the middle of all this, I've seen more kindness in the middle of all this than I've seen in years. And for me, I have to see the good in whatever's going on right now. And I know there's going to be a lot more good that's going to come out of this too. A lot more good. I just hope that people choose to act on it, that they choose to act on what you know. So, when it comes to conformity, You know, you gotta be careful in what you're buying into, what you're believing, how you're being programmed. Now, I don't want people to run off willy-nilly, because you do need a plan. You do need a plan. If you know you want something, you do need a plan to get there. You need to at least have some level of consistency, not conformity, or at least if it's conformity, conform to your plan. But be consistent with taking action and doing what you need to do in order to be the best you can be and have what it is you know you're absolutely entitled to in this world. And everybody in this world is entitled to whatever it is that they know they want. Nobody can tell you any different. Nobody can tell you any, nobody should. And you shouldn't allow anybody either. You should know what you want. And people say, well, oh, well, what do I do? No, listen, don't confuse it in what you should do for a living. It's a big difference. Because people say, I don't know what I want to do. Well, it doesn't matter. Do you want to be happy? Oh, yeah, well, you know that. Right? So if you want to be happy, people go, oh, that's very broad and that's very out there. It's very this. Well, then what's it going to take to make you happy? Then do that. Do you want to be loved? If that's what you want, and you know you can be, and know you can share love, and you know you can be happy, because you all know you can be happy. We've practiced it sometimes, and then got in the way of it again. But sometimes you practice it, so you know you can do it. But people say, well, what do I means I have to do this, I have to find something that I can do for a living to make sure I'm happy. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And I know this. I know if everybody who's watching this understands that they can be the best they can be, if they can find a passion within themselves to be the best, to love themselves, to be happy with themselves, to be happy with their choices. It doesn't matter the size of your bank account. It doesn't matter the car you drive. It doesn't matter the size of the house. You can have all that too if you want. And that's okay, by the way. But that's not what it's all about. I read an article on a lady yesterday, and it really saddened me. Because this lady has 2 young kids and she's got 18 months to live, and there's absolutely nothing they can do for this lady. And you know, she wrote her little article. She's using Instagram as her diary now. She said because she doesn't want to write a letter to her kids. So she said because a letter will never express every day how it feels. So she's using her Instagram account as a diary for kids every day. And she said, you know what? Before I was diagnosed, I had a million problems. Now I only have one. So, a little fly, but a little fruit fly. But she thought she had a million problems. Now she only has not one. And you know something? What resonated with me was she said, now I know I can be happy. Imagine that.
Power of letting go.
Yeah.
I think that's what was standing out for me there is, you know, when you come out of the slipstream of normality, conformity, everything else, there is going to be, or likely to be, a period of turbulence until you find your new thing. But it does take drive to get out of the slipstream, to find your own stream, to find your own passion, as you say, whether it be new income, going against the trends, people looking at you weirdly, all the usual, but it's worth it, right?
Yeah. People used to say to me, Pat, you're a bit out there, you're a bit crazy. And I said, thank you. Who'd want to be normal in this world, right? You know, and yeah, you're going to meet turbulence, of course you are, but so what? You're meeting it anyway. You're meeting it by being a conformist anyway. It's happening every day. It's happening all the time. So, like, embrace it. You know, and you say, you know, it's going to take a bit of drive and a bit of push and a bit of that. And I'm going to say this to you, actually, there's more to it than that, Pete, because, you know, for me, I got to a certain point in my life just by sheer willpower, right? By sheer willpower. You know, by God, was there so much going wrong. And I was maybe thick and arrogant and whatever term you want to use. And I used to actually say to people, hang on, you know what? I just stand in front of them and this look in my face and this move going, I'm strong and I'm capable. Put a wall in front of me. I'll drive through it. I'll knock it down. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Then I realized, actually, you know what's is easier than that? If you just trust yourself. If you just trust what you know. It's easier than that. Willpower will get you so far, but there's something more. There's something more, and you know what that is. And when you accept that, the struggle is not as hard as you thought. You don't have to. It's like, what I told you guys recently, the story with the dog with the bone. You just sometimes got to shift your focus, right? You got to shift your focus sometimes and understand that, you know what, it doesn't have to be that way. I used to stand tall. I used to stand up with my chest out and tell people, I'm ready to do whatever it takes. I'll take on the world. And that's good, by the way, because it changed your physiology. But I can also now sit quietly and understand and know, and I can sit in conversations and I can sit quietly and smile. And I know it's been driven by an agenda. And I don't have to be involved because I know better. And I have walked away, I think, Pete, you know this, I have walked away from multi-million dollar deals because I know better. I could easily cashed in, taking the money. A lot of people would be happier I done that, but that's not what I'm about. I know better, therefore I'm going to do better.
And that's going against your, typically, I would say, your ego. And that's not a pointed question. I mean, I suppose it's, when an offer that good, it's the expression of, it's an offer you can't refuse. Well, that's a message to the ego, right? Saying, well, of course, this is great. What if you know better?
Honestly, there have been times I sat down afterwards and I said, Pat, what are you after doing? You should have taken the deal, right? But you know what? Hindsight is, it is what it is, Pete. And, it's not that I don't enjoy having lots of money. I love lots of money too. I'm happy to accept it and put it to good use. But I can't sell my soul. No matter what, I can't sell my soul. And where that came from, I think there's a certain level of values that I've taken from my family, from my parents, from other people, from outside sources or other people that were in my life. But it's from within me. I can't sell my soul. I've had disputes with people in the past because of behavior and so forth, and maybe they may not have been happy with the outcome. But I can tell you one thing, I know I stand by my truth. I'm human too, by the way. I've done some silly things in the past, of course I have. I may do some silly things in the future. Actually, I know I will. I don't know what they are. But the reality is that's life, right? That's part of your journey. That's part of your growing. That's part of, understanding who you are. And but I can tell you, it doesn't matter to me, Peter. I know if it doesn't feel right, I ain't doing it. Part of what I used to teach weapons awareness training within my security industry and so forth for people in airlines and door supervisors, policemen, etc. And we used to have this saying, when you're searching people, right? Because we used to teach people on searching. If it looks like a gun, feels like a gun, and it sounds like a gun, chances are it's a gun. Don't go against it, right? Don't go against it. And when it comes to your life, if it feels right, in your imagination it looks right, and you can find a way to do it, and it's the right thing for you, then chances are it's the right thing for you. And the same is true the opposite. If it doesn't feel right, no matter how good the deal is, somewhere down the road it's going to fall apart. I've done deals with people, Pete, in the past who've really, really messed me over. Really messed me over. And when I look back in my gut, I knew before I got in the deal, it wasn't the right deal for me, but it was lucrative. It looked like the right thing, and I delivered and left high and dry eventually. I didn't do bad out of them all, but it certainly wasn't the deal that was agreed to. But I knew that. So sometimes you can make choices, and there's going to be an outcome that you're not going to be overly pleased with eventually. You still know you're making a choice. And you've got to know this. Every single time you make a choice, you're choosing an outcome. Every single time. You know this, by the way. You know if you're doing something you're not really happy doing, that you're not going to be happy. You know this. That's the outcome you're choosing. And for me, I can walk away and call it pride. Somebody said to me one time with a deal, he said, Paddy said, listen, put your pride in your back pocket here. And I thought about that too. And I kind of went back and I said, well, actually, let's renegotiate the deal, because I know that's not going to work for you or for me. Let's renegotiate the deal. I don't want to walk away from it. It's a good deal. But the conditions are not going to work. And I know they're not going to work, and eventually we're going to fall out. And I'd rather walk away from this deal with nothing rather than fall out with you. Maybe I don't believe I'm silly. Some people may have that opinion, but I know I'm not. You know, I also know, yeah, Pete, I could have done deals there with multiples of millions and sit on it for the rest of my life. But somewhere down the road, somebody's going to be in pain and somebody's going to suffer from it, and I can't live on somebody else's misery. So, and I know I won't, and I never will. So I know I'll always do the right thing, and I will do what I believe is the right thing. Not everybody else is going to believe that too, I'm sure, but I will do what I believe is the right thing.
You mentioned there saying know your truth.
Yeah.
Can you explain?
No.
Good.
Because it's one of those things you can't really explain, actually, I think. You just know what's right for you. You got to feel it in your whole being. You got to feel it everywhere. You got to feel, that this is right. I mean, I can sit here and I feel extremely relaxed, actually, here having this conversation with you. Very relaxed. I feel it. I feel like the sun is shining on me. I feel like the world has everything to offer for me. I feel that by the end of today will be a better day than my expectation of it is. I just accept that. And I mean, when you come from your truth, you speak your truth, you show your truth, you turn up every day, you deliver, you be consistent with that. So it's not about, it's not about picking up a book, right, and reading the book and learning it and spouting information, even if it's good information, even if it's great information and it's going to support people. It's about living it. You got to live it yourself. You got to be the best version of you and live your truth. So, as my points of culture, that's my truth, right? That's who I am. That's what I believe I stand for. And I believe that I turn up every day consistently and deliver on that. And that doesn't mean, again, I'm human. And can I make some mistakes? Of course. Of course. I mean, the universe agrees with me, by the way, but the world challenges me, right? But the universe agrees with me. The universe will deliver whatever you ask of it. But the world will challenge me, or at least the people in the world will challenge me a lot. And things happen that I'm uncomfortable with. And I'm an emotional being too. I'll have certain emotions. And sometimes I will respond or react to those emotions. But I'd like to think that if I'm true to myself, I will put it right. And putting it right, by the way, I don't believe that people should judge themselves based on making a mistake. I don't ever believe anybody should judge themselves. I don't believe in judgment, even though maybe sometimes I do judge. I'm sure we make a judgment and we make an instant judgment and everything. So we're always judging, right? But I don't believe people. If you listen to people here, if you make a mistake, don't judge yourself, and it doesn't matter. Even if you know knowingly you're doing it and it's a mistake, it doesn't matter. That's life. That's life. Don't live a life with regret. Live a life of fun. Live a life of happiness. Live a life of love, of abundance. Whatever that means to you, whatever it means to you, just be true to yourself. And if you want to be happy, be happy. You don't need permission. You don't need permission. Matter of fact, especially in a world of miserable people, go in and be happy. Be that crazy one that's always smiling. It's always laughing. It's infectious. Be true to yourself.
It's back to, I suppose, again, conformity. As humans, we don't like necessarily change, and people want you to stay the same. Not that they mean bad of you, but they just sort of want consistency and stability.
Yeah, but see, again, I guess back to what we discussed earlier too. What we know right now that the world really wants more of it and is craving is human connection, right? And if you crave that human connection that much, and if you're that little bit different, and you're going to be the outsider, nobody wants to be the outsider. So by trying to change something and people become uncomfortable with it because they're worried about how other people will treat them, And will I be ostracized? Will I be cast aside? Will I, so maybe it's better to keep that to myself because I don't want to be on my own. Right? So a huge amount of people settle because they don't want to be on their own. And again, yeah, it is conformity. I mean, people are conforming every day, multiple times a day, even those that know better. Because, we got to go back to the core human needs. What is the most important one? If significance, which I find significance is probably one of the most core human needs when it comes to men. That's why men, we're being recorded here. Well, that's why men do a lot of stupid things, right? So the ladies on here are laughing, because they believe it and they get it. But significance is so important for them to feel like they're a man. And we understand that, by the way. So sometimes you will do something that's destructive and not congruent with your values because your core human need is being met, because at least I feel like I'm the man here. I have some power, I have some control, I have something. And you don't feel useless. And it's the fear of that, and it's the fear that's created. The fear of that creates conformity. What if I get cast aside? What if people don't believe me? What if they don't love me anymore? What if they leave me? What if? What if they laugh at me? What if they keep making a joke at me? What if I keep making mistakes and they laugh at me more? And it's not a nice place to be when that happens, you see. And unfortunately, most people have experienced that. And it's not a nice place to be. And for me, I experienced that in the past. It's not a nice place to be. I got to tell you, I want to be loved. I want people to love me. I want people to love what I do. I want people to believe in me. Maybe that's why I do what I do. But I want it. And it means a lot to me. However, I'm not driven by what other people think. I'm not that bothered. I appreciate good stuff. I appreciate the feedback. Keeps me on track. But for those that don't believe in me, that's okay. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I just believe in it, and I believe in me. And I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. Even if it sounds crazy, I'm going to continue to dream out loud. I'm going to share with you what I think. Rightly or wrongly, I'm going to share with you what I think. But I truly believe that I know when I share whatever I share the right thing at the right time for somebody. And that's good enough for me. And I also know when I share that right thing at the right time for somebody, that's the right thing for me too. And I know it's bringing me further down the path that I want to go and that I choose to go. And I'm loving life.
You used a number of different words, and I suppose my question is, do they all correspond? And you talked about knowing, you talked about feeling, you talked about sense, you talked about instinct and intuition. Are they connected, all in the same?
Well, I believe everything is connected, really. And are they connected? Yeah, because there's, you don't have just one emotion, right? You don't have just one feeling. You don't have just one thought. So there's a multitude of things that come together that create something magnificent. And if it is feeling, if it's emotion, and other people may explain it using different words, but they'll use a multitude of words and brought together, yes, they'll create something magical. And it's like, you want to read a good story, when you can't read a good story with just one word, right? And a good story is something that usually brings together your imagination. It's going to bring together different emotions, different feelings, different, thought patterns. And, you might read a story in the same story as me, but take a completely different message from it. So, yeah, I believe they're all connected. I believe everything is connected. And the words that I'm using, honestly, you surprised me when you told me some of the words I use, because I wasn't even aware I was using certain words just then. Right? But I speak whatever, but I just speak whatever comes into my mind at the right time, and I know it's the right thing to say at the right time. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to everybody. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense to me. But I just know whatever comes to my mind, I'll speak my truth. And do I believe they're all connected? Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything is connected. Yeah, and you know, it's when you pull together. I mean, you can get into talking about, you know, the law of vibration and talking about energy and so forth, and understand we're made up of millions and millions of cells. So every one of them has an important part to play. And it's those millions of cells coming together has created this wonderful human being that I'm talking to here today. So yeah, they all come together. They all connect in some way, shape, or form to make a difference. We do it as people. We're doing it here in the Outstanding Network. The people who are on here today, the people who come on the calls, the people who reach out, coming together is what makes a difference. That's what really impacts the world, you know.
You were going to take us through 16 steps.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so 16 steps because there are people on here, by the way. There are plenty of people here who have a gift of knowing, and I believe that. And I'm not even sure who's watching. I know we have some people watching, so I'm not even sure who's watching here, right? But you know, because if I did, I'd probably pick one or two in particular who I see it in, and I know. And I say this to you, Pete, you're going to recognize a lot of these 16 steps, right? You're going to recognize a lot, and maybe we'll get your feedback at the end of it when we declare these 16 signs that you're clear cognizant. I have to slow myself down for that word. So if you're not sure, here are 16 signs that'll help you decide. Number one, you get quick and sudden ideas, and you're almost always excited to share them. That's the first sign. The second sign is you have a sense of inner knowing when something is not a good idea, despite the fact that it seems perfect on the surface. Number three, you have a certainty that somebody is lying about something, even if the evidence is contrary. Number four, you receive information about future outcomes. Now, this is one that I found difficult to make sense of because I got it. I just tend to know what's coming. And I think that's an extraordinary sign, and it's an extraordinary gift. I'm not claiming, by the way, that I'm clairvoyant, but maybe we all are in some way. But I certainly know I can say things are going to happen, and there's no explanation. You know, not tragedies. I'm talking about things that I'm involved in, the goals, the choices, the things that I can see happening in the future, even things going on in my current environment. And it usually is right. Sign number five is you often get a truly inspired idea. Recognize that, Pete? Now, here's something that sign number six that Donald finds fascinating. We often have a laugh about. After misplacing an object, you suddenly know where the object is, and when you look in the place, you find it. And I often say this, it's like I take photographs. As I'm walking around, it's like if I take photographs. And if somebody says, oh, I can't find my keys on my phone, I'll go, well, why did you go down into the hall table? They're probably sitting there just behind the plant box. And it's like I see it in the photograph, and almost every time it's exactly where I said it would be, right? So some people will resonate here, and you'll see these signs. So sign number seven, people tend to bring all kinds of questions to you. Usually it's something that they can't solve. They always leave feeling like you've given them the answer they were looking for. Now that is something, a sign I certainly believe. Well, actually, I believe all of these signs are resonating with me personally. Maybe you recognize something yourself. Number eight, someone asks you a question of which you have no foreknowledge, and the answer comes out to you out of the blue. You can simply see it in your head and share it with others. Sign number nine, you can read people easily, and your initial thoughts turn out to be spot on over time. Most people can do this. Number 10, you've never tried to do something like beading before. And when you try it, you can see the process and the pattern all the way to the completed project in your mind as you work, even without instructions. Or maybe you've built something, you've never done it before, but you have the whole picture in your mind and you go and build it. even without instructions. Number 11 is you're a left-brain person and prefer things to be logical and orderly. You're smiling there, Pete. Number 12, you love learning from books, from audiobooks, seminars, and courses. You soak up knowledge like a sponge, and there always seems to be room for more. 13, you've never played a musical instrument in your life, but when you sit in front of a piano, you know how to play your favorite song. You understand the notes and keys, even without lessons. Number 14, you have an unquiet mind and spend your time thinking a lot or writing a lot. Many authors, songwriters, and claircognizants do this. So you have an unquiet mind. You know anyone like that, Pete? Spend their time thinking a lot or writing a lot. 15, you tend to know what people are going to say next, sometimes before they do. And lastly, number 16, you are a lifelong student and a collector of information. And those are 16 signs that you may recognize. You recognize any of them, you know that you have the gift of knowing. If you recognize a lot of them, then there's absolute certainty. And the key is that you have to trust it and trust it to be the truth for you. And then go out and put it into practice in a practical term. Create a plan with what you know and then work the plan. And this is what I guess I talk about when I say to people, listen, this is about being purposeful, doing it on purpose. Figure out what you know, what you're best at, and do it on purpose. And you already know you can. You already, believe it or not, know how. But sometimes you have to get involved in the process for that to become clear too. And I'm going to highly suggest that you do what you know best. And the one thing you know best is you. Nobody knows you better than you. You know what you're truly capable of. The things you tell yourself you're not capable of are usually just a program that's running from somebody else. You're capable of learning anything. You're capable of doing anything. The human mind is amazing. Most people use it for a fraction of the percentage of its capability. But if you allow yourself to understand what you know, I promise you, you will have more of whatever it is you want in life. There are some questions actually coming up in the group here. I didn't realize. I've been paying so much attention to talking to you. If you want to answer any of them, or
Sure, let's get them in here.
I think, well, Signature Vita, that's Beamy, she asks, is it ego or instinct? Well, I think we've kind of answered that, haven't we? Well, intuitive, you can call it intuition, whatever it is, and what drives you. Ego gets in the way. It can also be a great thing, by the way, but ego gets in the way most of the time. If you just move beyond the ego, accept you have an ego, by the way, we all have an ego, right? We can accept we have an ego, but we can move beyond that and actually accept that you're intuitive enough to know better, to know what you can do, be, and have.
Just come ahead. One point there, you mentioned the word pride, and I'm just curious about its connection to ego.
Yeah, you see, is pride a thought thing? I'm not quite sure. Is it a thought thing? Is it something we've learned? Because, I grew up, I would speak about my dad as a very proud man. Well, what does pride mean? I mean, proud of your children, proud of your life, proud of how you look, proud of your achievements. And sometimes I think about pride, and I think of it in a positive way, and I think of it in a negative way. Like today is Wednesday. Monday we had so many kids around this country received their Leaving Cert results, and people putting up on Facebook how proud they were of them, because of what they've achieved, right? And then other people putting up out of a place of desperation, and when they put it out there and they say, well, even though they didn't get them the points that they were hoping to get, I'm still proud of you. And that's fear driven. That pride is fear driven there, because I want them to know, geez, they better know we're proud of them, in case, unfortunately society has created this need for recognition, that sometimes the confusion of pride there is, I'm proud of you because I've recognized your achievements. I'm proud of you even though you didn't make your achievements, because I need to make you feel better, because your pride might be hurt because you didn't reach your achievements. I just think everybody should be proud regardless. Be proud of who you are, be proud of your truth, be proud of stepping up for yourself and being the best you can be. And but sometimes people can confuse the pride, like this friend of mine said, listen, put your pride in your back pocket. And that's what he saw it as, actually, but it wasn't nothing to do with me. I question it. I won't lie. I question it. Am I being too proud here? Am I being ridiculous? And I said, well, what's my gut telling me? What do I really feel? Is this the right thing to do? Is this right for me? Maybe does that even matter? Does it even matter whether it's right for me or not? Nobody's really going to get hurt from it. But it still wasn't right for me. I said, no, not for me. And maybe that came from experience too, Pete, because there have been times in the past that I went, yeah, actually, let's do it. Let's make some money. Let's do it. By the way, I love making money, and I think it's important for people to understand that, and it's important to allow yourselves to do that. But I'm not prepared to do it at any cost. And it has to work for me. And it has to be part of my bigger plan. And when I say I have a bigger plan for this universe, I'm talking about my universe. Some of you are part of it, but only if you choose. But I have bigger plans. And I truly believe that because of that, this is why things are working in my favor. Things always seem to work right. They always come right for me. Because I don't allow the nonsense to get in the way anymore. And I trust that I'm with the right people. I have faith in myself, but I back it up with action. And some people mightn't see that, but that's okay. Also, you got to understand, when you know something and you know it's right, you continue regardless. And you don't try and justify yourself. And you don't try and prove it to anybody. You just do. And those that get it will get it, and those that know it's right will know it's right. And those that don't, that's okay too. They know that they're not correct. They know. I often say, Pete, in a bit of fun, I say, listen, you're entitled to your wrong opinions. If you disagree with me, you're entitled to your wrong opinions, right? I kind of sometimes say that jokingly, but there's sometimes I mean it. But I mean it in a heartfelt way, if that makes sense. But I'm not changing what I know to be the truth. Will I get it wrong sometimes? Possibly. But I know when I go with my intuition, I know when I take that time to raise my vibration as a human being, to increase my value as a human being, that usually when I operate from that space, that higher value opportunities keep coming to me. Higher value people lean forward to me. And I'm talking about higher value human beings, not higher value as in financially wealthy people. I'm talking about as human, those two, by the way, because there's a lot of them at that level who are very, very, what I would call high value human beings who come from a great place. But I know that the more I'm doing this, and you know what, I have the proof. The proof is for me, by the way, and I say I have the proof because it has happened so many times. It's been happening. I'm doing this a long time. I've been around for a long time. I intend to be around for a long time more. And over time, the right people, those with bad intention, eventually move away. Those with good intention are here to stay. That sounded like a rhyme, but I didn't mean it to be that way. But
you're a poet.
Yeah, I'm a poet and I don't know it, right? But it has never let me down. It's never let me down. So there has to be some truth in it, right? So I feel that's where I want to lean towards now. And I'm going to lean towards there for always, forever. And I'm going to encourage as many people as I can encourage to allow themselves to actually believe in themselves and know what they know. And have fun in life. Don't take it too serious either. I meet a lot of people, Pete, as well, who get to understand this, and it actually takes over their life, right? And it can almost engulf them, and that's not good either. There has to be a happy balance. You have to have a happy medium in everything. So we often hear people, and I've met a lot of people as well, and I'm sure you have, who, and I mean this respectfully, right? Because I understand why people go there. And sometimes people say like they've crossed over to the other side, they've gone woo-woo, right? Because they're trying to convince the world of the world being a better place. And people say that they're not grounded anymore. They don't seem to be grounded anymore. Maybe they are. Maybe they know it all. Maybe they have the answer. But I'm going to suggest to people is, you know what, remain grounded, but believe in yourself, and accept that you are energy. You are your universe. You are your whole, by the way. The body you're in is only borrowed. It's only borrowed. Now, someday you're going to have to give that back. But there's got to be more than that. There has to be more than that, and I believe that. But at the same time, I want to live the life in the body that I borrowed the best I can. Right, I want to enjoy it too. My mum, quite a while back, and I always want to be respectful when I speak about my mum. And I went to visit her, and she had a little growth that she was a bit concerned about. Thankfully, it turned out to be nothing to be concerned about. But she said, you know what? She said, I'm not afraid to go anyway. She said, right, I'm not afraid of dying. She said, because she said, I know there's a place up there for me. So that's interesting. And she said, because I've lived in hell and earth. My mum had a very tough life. And she said, I've lived through hell, so there has to be something better. And I said, I was shocked. And I said, do you really believe that? Oh yeah, she said, I believe that this is hell. This is my penance here. That there's a better world, a better life for me after. And I said, well, I refuse to believe that. But that's just me. Because if this is hell, and there is a life after this, then my God, am I going to have some party? Because I intend to enjoy every moment. So whatever hell or heaven mean to you, I don't mean to be disrespectful, nor do I want to open that for debate with anybody. But to me, this is heaven. And I'm going to live it every day like that. And if there's a better life after this, well, bring it on. But I'm not waiting for chance. I want to enjoy every moment of every day that I have, and every moment in this life that I have. And you know what? I want an abundance of everything in my life. Of spirituality, of fun, of happiness, of, finances, of travel, of love, of food, right, of drink, whatever it is you want. I don't care. But you have that abundance of making the choice of everything that you want. And that's for me. That's life for me. But I know I'm on the right track. And I know that I'm going to continue making a difference. I know I'm nowhere near where I want to be yet. And I also know that I'm nowhere near where I'm going to be. Because I'm going to be. I know that. And I'm going to be the best version of me, and I'm going to make a major difference in this world. And if that means one person has changed your life, then that's big enough for me. If it means there's hundreds of thousands, then it's the same feeling for me. But I'm going to keep doing it. And if it's one person at a time, I'm going to do it one person at a time. But I'm going to enjoy the journey. I'm going to enjoy the journey. I'm going to converse with people at whatever level. It doesn't matter to me. People are people. And everybody deserves that level of respect, and everybody should be shown that respect so they can actually choose to be the best they can be too. That's my idea on knowing.
Is karma a term that resonates with you?
Oh, karma. You see, I think karma can be very confused. People like to use karma as a weapon, right? Aha, there you go, karma. Or, karma, don't worry about them. Karma will take care of them. you know, well, what is karma? You know, if you use it for the wrong reason, if your expectation or you're willing it for the wrong reason, then, you know, what you put out there is what you get back, right? You know, if we were to believe in karma. So therefore, if you use it as a weapon, then, you know, chances are there's going to be rebound. You know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, right? So karma, if we were to think about it in the way I think about it, is look, just put it, just do your best with what you have as often as you can do it, and you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded, and you know, and I think the universe again will deliver whatever you ask of it. And yeah, I can come back and I can look at karma, and I don't ever want to think of it in a negative way. We can always say, you know, that sometimes the universe will take from you what you take from that. And Donna, myself and Donna only had this conversation a year or two ago, which was somebody shared it with us, and I can't remember who it was that shared it. That the universe will take from you whatever you know, whatever you take from it, it'll take back from you. And we can look at life and think, yeah, there are certain things that are taken from us and certain things we lost. But I also know that I could have changed all that. So I think knowing is even greater than karma. You know, because you know when you choose something, you choose an outcome. And you choose a possible outcome. It may not always be the outcome, it may not always happen. It may not, you know, you may be clever enough and capable enough of avoiding the outcomes if they're not going to be good outcomes. So, you know what, I really, honestly, Pete, I don't really give much thought to karma. Even though I may have used that word a few times in my life, I just want to continue to do what I do as best as I can do it. And sometimes I may make a mistake, and I'll suffer the consequence of that if there's a consequence to it. But I'm not giving out there with an expectation to get it back. And I think if people think about karma all the time, they think if I do this, they're creating an expectation. Then you have to ask yourself, are you really coming from a higher place if you're doing with an expectation? By the way, I do things with an expectation also. Don't get me wrong. I plan things because I get involved with looking for the outcomes that I want to have in my life. So I plan things and I do things and I make things happen. You know, so I think getting involved in the process, but knowing, I think is that little bit greater. I think people use karma for fear quite a lot too. And the word karma can create fear and it can create loving for people. It just depends on where people are at. So it's not something I personally give much thought to, you know, other than to just say, look, be the best you can be. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. You know, you can talk about forgiveness, and sometimes I think people can over forgive themselves too. You know, because you're consistently forgiving yourself and you're focused on beating yourself up for a mistake that you made. You're a human being. You will make mistakes, trust me. Just accept it and that's it, move on. Don't live a life of regret. And you know, the problem is when you make a mistake and other people know about it, people like to beat you up with it. Right? This is giving that stick. You remember I spoke as well about the JCB, right? Don't allow people to judge or criticize you or blame you. You make a mistake, you make a mistake. Live with it. You can live with it. You can let it behind you. You can move on. Now, some people may challenge me on that one because they're emotionally involved, and that's just simply what it is. You're just emotionally involved, so therefore you're emotionally charged. But when you actually know better, you know that's not serving you either. So just move on. Don't keep challenging yourself by judging yourself. Just move on. Don't let karma confuse you. Just be the best you can be for as much as you can be, you know. But I see people having fun, Pete. I see people going out having fun. And sometimes they restrict the amount of fun they're going to have based on they're worried about being judged or criticized. Or feck them. You know what? Feck them. Just go for it. Get out and have fun, whatever that means to you. If it feels good, then it's good. Do it. And if you need to be forgiven, then forgive yourself and move on.
I'm slightly curious, taking you back a bit, and you talked about a special place for you is by the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious, is it the interaction of the sea and the water? Is it the water, or what?
Oh, there's something magical, Pete. And, you know, to me, it's like a cleansing. It's like, now, here's something bizarre. I mean, I'm certainly not going to take off my shirt here, right? But I got a couple of tattoos done quite a few years back. And they kind of resemble, they tell a story, actually, right? And you have to see them for me to be able to share them. So maybe I'll take a photograph and show you, right? I have 2 tattoos on my arms, one here and one over here. And this one represents a place I was in my life when I was lost. But I knew I was strong enough. I knew I was capable. But I was really lost. And this one over here actually represents my life after, I guess, I became aware. And it wouldn't make sense if you said that saw them. But in this one, I'm actually walking out of the ocean. And there's a storm behind me. So I'm believing that the ocean takes the energy. You can take the storms. You can take the storms in your life. You can take them away. You can wash them out to sea. And I believe that you can gain strength from there. And some people will do it from the mountains. Some people, it's the mountains that resonate with them. But for me, it's like a cleansing in a way. And sometimes when things used to bother me, I'd pick up a stone and I'd hold the stone. And I would literally position everything that's bothering me in that stone. And I would take it out to the ocean. And the ocean would take it away from me. Take care of everything. That's what I feel. I've never explained it, never thought about explaining it. I have no idea if this makes sense the way I'm explaining it right now. But to me, it's a place of cleansing, of freedom, of just letting go. And letting go with no judgment, because there's no noise there to me. There's no noise. Absolutely. I honestly, if I could tell you, if there was 1 million people on the beach, I wouldn't hear one of them. Because it's a different, I feel it. I feel connected to it. I feel really connected, and I do believe that we're all connected to the earth in some way, shape, or form, that there's energy coming from everywhere. And the ocean does it for me. And I don't, I spend my time there. I don't want to try and convince people, you got to go here, you got to do this, and you got to, if it's for people, it's for people. Those who get it, I can have a conversation all day long with about it. They understand why you go there, why you meditate, why you connect to the earth, why you connect, and that's okay. I'm happy to have those conversations with people. I'm not trying to convince anybody, by the way. Some people might think he's nuts when he's talking about the ocean, right? It's a place of dreams for me as well. So I can only share my experience and what it means to me, but it means a lot to me. And where this came from, who knows? But I just know it's the place I need to be when I need to be there.
I do. I mean, water seems to be a very symbolic and very significant place for humans. And that makes a lot of sense. That sort of that washing, that attrition process, and sort of passing over as such.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I didn't always know why. And when I thought about it and allowed myself, I just allowed myself to accept it's there for me and why it's there for me, and I can feel it. I can probably explain it in multiple different ways. If you ask me that question in 6 months, I might explain it slightly differently. Who knows? But I know that that's the place for me. I just love being there. And sometimes when I say to people, when you know certain things, don't overanalyze it, just accept it. I think part of the problem with the gift of knowing and the energy that people are feeling is being over analytical and trying to make sense of everything, right? Because again, maybe you've been taught that it has to make sense. If it's real, it has to make sense. If it's real, I have to be able to pick it up and feel it. I have to be able to see it, right? And then and if you don't, you're analyzing why. What's something wrong with me? I'm having these strange thoughts. There's something wrong with me. You know what? Just trust it. Just trust it. Just accept it. Don't try and overanalyze it. Don't be anal about it, right? Just trust it. Accept it. If that's how you feel and that's the right thing for you at that time, that's what it is. Now, I also say to people, don't spend all of your time there. Don't spend all of your time there. You got to get involved.
I want to be respectful of your time here because I know we've been on here quite some time. Really,
we have another call in 15 minutes.
I just want to answer the question that we actually posed or sort of give an answer. So the original question was knowing and feeling that you're capable of more, but don't know where to start. How would you summarize, if you can?
Oh, write it down. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, write it down. Then reach out and find people that know, somebody who has done it before, somebody that's already involved in the process. You know, for me, and that's what worked for me. Like, I knew there was something more, but I was talking to the wrong people. I was talking to people who didn't know. So I had to find people who knew. So I reached out to people who were actually doing it. They're doing what I already knew was the right thing for me. And I wanted to learn more from them and share with them and listen to them, and hired some of them. And, you know, I got involved with them. And you know, I'm glad to say a lot of them are actually my friends. So, you know, write it down. If you just know something, write it down. Don't even think it. Just write whatever in your mind. Just trash it out on paper. It looks terrible. It looks ugly. It looks ridiculous. It doesn't matter. It makes sense to you. And when you realize that, ask yourself, well, what would that feel like? What would I feel like when I'm there? What's it going to look like? And imagine it as your reality right now. And when you realize that's your reality, accept it. Don't let that analytical brain get in the way here. Accept it. And then go, well, who knows this? Who knows this? Where can I find people that know this? Where can I find the how to? And go out there and find it. Get involved in the process and make it happen for you.
Pat, that's been outstanding. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Pete. I've absolutely enjoyed that. I gotta tell you.
It's a good cleansing process too. So it's all
Absolutely. I feel wonderful now.
So
I
you
truly
should.
do. Truly do. I think I really enjoy that. Really enjoyed that.